I can hear you. Cool, Alex. Yeah.
On. There you go. Now you can hear me. Everyone can hear me now. Figured it out. So, what is up, everyone? José Youngs and MMAfighting.com here with another episode of the A-Side Live Chat. I'm sure you guys were watching my mouth move, but weren't hearing me talk. But Pete Carroll is, of course, returned. Pete, what have you been up to since last we saw you? I know last week we had a quote-unquote extra live episode of the A-Side Live Chat because Alex Savis was wonderful on. She made her A-Side debut.
Absolutely.
Pete, what have you been doing?
Nothing much, just watching a shitload of fights and, trying to break a load of news, which has been slightly successful this week. But, excited about the return of Rug, which we announced, we reported yesterday. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh, it never stops, does it, Pete?
No, it does not.
Well, Alex killed it last week. We had a pretty good response. I'm sure she'll be back. A lot of people are wondering where. When I had posted Alex was returning, some people thought it or was making her debut. Some people thought I was referring to the bad boy, Alex K.
And that would be a diss because he has been on plenty of times, has Alex.
He's been on plenty of times, as Pizzi has said, but he'll be back nonetheless eventually. Maybe when the police finally catch up with Pizzi, we're gonna need a replacement.
True.
But anyway, of course, this is not our podcast. This is your all's podcast. People always also remind me that we have people listen. They don't just watch. So shout out to all the people listening on Spotify and Google Play and Apple Podcasts and all that. But of course, this is not our podcast. This is yours. You can leave your comment in the comment section on MMAfighting.com, or you can use hashtag the A-Side on Twitter. Lately, we've been getting more Twitter questions than questions on the site. So without further ado, Pete, we're going to jump right into the questions. From Clev21 on the site, headline is Jones. It appears somewhere along the way, Jon Jones has taken a step back. Do you believe it's a matter of him losing focus or motivation, or the division catching up to his skills, or perhaps his downturn can be pointed to the emergence of USADA? What say you? So yes, Pete Carroll, of course, you watched for the second fight in a row. Jon Jones squeaked out a decision, and I say squeaked out a decision mostly on this one because a lot of people believe he actually lost to Dominick Reyes. I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. But to answer this man's questions, what is going on with Jon Jones?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, I guess, but it is, there are some pretty good theories. I mean, is it a lack of motivation? Is Father Time catching up with Jon Jones? We have to note that this guy is the most tested athlete, according to Jeff Nowitzki. And, it hasn't been a resounding Jones over the last few performances. And you got to wonder what that's about. Is he taking these guys too lightly? Like, he seemed nearly insulted by Reyes, suggesting that he had an edge anywhere against him in the lead up to this fight. But, he was very equal to the challenge. As you said, it's a very controversial outcome. People weighing in left, right, and center. And look, it's not the first controversial outcome or that Jones has had in the last year or so. So yes, it does feel as though maybe something is up. Is the gap between him and the contenders a lot less in disparity than we thought it was, or is he simply not getting up for these fights? It's hard to know, but I don't know. I feel like every time we've seen the guy in a rematch, we've seen a different side of him, right? He's come out so resoundingly against Gustafsson, so resoundingly against Cormier. I guess by booking a Reyes rematch, which seems to be definitely the flavor of the month now, after what's happened compared to all the heavyweight talk we had before this, I think we'll answer some of those questions, as in he will want to go in there and definitively answer that question, I believe.
Well, I think our cameraman, Casey Loudon, made an excellent point with this whole Jon Jones is better in rematch talk. The first John Gustafsson fight, there was like 6-7 years between fights. So yes. It wasn't an immediate rematch. He's never really had the immediate rematch. And then technically, the second fight with Daniel Cormier, he didn't officially win if you look at the Fight Finder, as Casey Lyden would point out multiple times on the Coffee Talk. But nonetheless, he did win more violently than the first time. He did put an exclamation point on that fight, but he's never had the immediate rematch right away. I don't think this is a matter of Jon Jones not taking his opponent seriously. Maybe his training camp was a little different. I noticed Israel Martinez wasn't in his corner, his longtime wrestling coach. Maybe he thought he didn't need a wrestling coach against Dominick Reyes, a predominantly striking heavy fighter, but then he was shooting him for those takedowns nonetheless. But I think I don't know, I'm just speaking on this from looking on the outside looking in. Even before Dominick Reyes' fight, what were the fights that the first fight Jon Jones had, not struggled, but showed glimpses of being human, was that Lyoto Machida fight. I think he clearly lost the first round when he got clipped by that
right hand,
that flurry that came in. Lyoto Machida, a predominantly southpaw fighter, and then Ovince St. Preux, a southpaw fighter, probably his weakest performance inside the octagon in terms of excitement and dominance. And then Thiago Santos switches a lot. Clearly showed signs of didn't know what to do with Thiago Santos. I know a lot of people say Santos won 1-2-5, but I don't think it was nearly as controversial as this fight with Dominick Reyes. And the Dominick Reyes, I asked him at the fighter panel, he is a southpaw. Like, he tweets southpaw precision when he knocked out Chris Weidman, and I was like, do you think Jon Jones struggles with southpaws? And he goes, well, we'll find out on Saturday. He gave one of those answers. And then you saw Jon Jones looked more human than ever before. I don't know if it's a southpaw thing, but just looking back through his previous fights, Jon Jones has historically shown signs of not being this world beater against southpaws.
I was watching your beautiful face as I was watching the main event. You were cage side. What was the mood like as the fight is playing out there? Were you sitting there thinking, wow, I'm about to see the king dethroned? I mean, what was the atmosphere in Houston?
Watching it from the octagon side, that third round, which seems to be the controversial round, seemed a lot closer. And then I rewatched the whole second and third round, and I was like, oh wow, the second round didn't seem close at all, and I scored the third round for Reyes watching it through the broadcast. But octagon side, it felt a lot closer than I thought it was. There were huge Jon Jones chants throughout the arena, and then as the fight went on, you start to hear Reyes chants, let's go Dominic, let's go Dominic. So I think the crowd sensed they were about to witness Jon Jones be dethroned.
Wow. And I see. I know we're probably not getting onto it yet, but you kind of mentioned it there. The second round is up for debate, and I just don't see how that's scored for Jones.
I don't either.
I don't see
Casey, Esther, Alex, and I watched it in Houston. Literally the next day before Coffee Talk, we were like, "Oh wow!" Like, even John Anik was like, "Yeah, the second round was a swing round," and we watched it. And we were like, "How? Like, what are you? What are you?"
You can
watching?
Understand. You can understand Anik maybe getting lost, maybe thinking it's the third or something. You're just on fight night. You know how it is yourself. Your head's all over the place when you're trying to keep up with these, especially a 5-round fight. But yeah, it's so you're sitting there just so I can get this in my head, and you're basically awaiting them to say the winner by unanimous decision, Dominick Reyes, and you.
I didn't know when it was over. I didn't know who won, but I thought the judges would give it to Dominic, considering yes, his back was to the cage the whole time, but that's how Dominick Reyes likes to fight. I thought Dominick Reyes might get the decision, but based on the judging the whole night, I had no idea, because the one judge gave, I'm sure we'll get into it, but there was one judge that gave James Krause, that said James Krause lost the first round. One judge gave Andre Ewell all 3 rounds. I didn't know.
That's what's upsetting me the most about this whole thing, to be honest. James Krause. That was that should have been one of the big takeaways from that whole weekend. It was unbelievable to watch it as it was happening, and it's very deflating when you hear about that scoring, to be honest.
Someone in the YouTube comment section, Reyes had a couple good rounds, gassed out, and didn't engage for the rest of the fight. Jones won, controlled the octagon, won round 3, 4, and 5. So some people do think Jon Jones wins. I don't like this whole narrative that you have to beat the champ to become the champ, or maybe even if he did quote unquote gas out in rounds 4 and 5, I still think he won rounds 1, 2, and 3. And if you're looking at this fight as as it's scored, where you have to look at each round individually and score them individually, like he won, like 1, 2, 3, and then say he did cruise 4 and 5, like that shouldn't mean he lost just because he didn't blitz out the gate in rounds 4 and 5.
Yeah, and to be fair, I credit Jones for his ability to rally in 4 and 5. He did very well in 4 and 5. It's one of the most impressive things about him that he never seems out. It never seems out of a fight. I guess he's always bringing it in those last 10 minutes, those championship rounds. I thought he was brilliant, but as you say, that doesn't disturb the way I had scored the first 3 rounds of the fight. So look. A lot of people are saying robbery. I don't know if you're going to call it a robbery. It's a close fight. They happen all the time. I mean, as I believe it was me and Casey on a previous coffee talk, we were talking about, you can have a 30-27 and it can be a razor close fight, based on what happens in the cage. I think, MMA fans are too quick to be outraged constantly. Every weekend we're calling for people's jobs. We're, everything. I just feel like, I don't know if that's a robbery. But I do see some issues with the scorecards on the night, of course, and with the commission. It's
pretty 50-50 looking at the YouTube comments right now. Someone says, if it was a fight to the death, Tyler Serrani says, if it was a fight to the death, Reyes would be dead right now. John Sue says, Reyes
But that's not in the judging criteria. They don't have a part that says, if he's close to death, scored a 10-9 round. There's absolutely to do with the criteria there. Like
S. Saxman, I think, put it perfectly. Pride scoring, Jones wins. This is score round by round. Therefore, Reyes won hands down. So yes, like you're not looking at the fight like it's not a fight to the death. It's round by round. And if you do round by round, I think Dominick Reyes wins 3-2. It's similar to the, but then like score can come in all wonky and stuff like that. Like if you look at the the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder the first fight, I think if you're just giving 1 point per round, I think Tyson Fury wins more rounds, but because Wilder had those 2 10-8s, it comes into a draw. So it just depends. There's rules. It's not like you can like in baseball, you score 1 run in every inning, and then you score no runs in the 9th. Yeah. So you're winning 8-0. You're winning 8-0 in the 9th, and then all of a sudden the opposing team scores 7 runs in the 9th. It gets 7 straight solo shots, and you lose 8-7. No, you still lost.
And then it's 3-pointer. Yeah.
I don't have to tell Pete about American sports.
No, you don't. Definite end zone stuff there.
Oh, you should. When we were in Houston, Casey, Esther, and Alex had to deal with me when I found out that Mookie Betts was traded to the Dodgers.
I saw you tweeting about this. I didn't know what was going on.
I was absolutely demoralized. Like my heart was shattered, and I was tweeting about it, and people like from your side of the pond or people that don't like sports thought my dog died because they thought I had a dog named Mookie, and I was like, no, Mookie Betts, the greatest player the Red Sox have had in years, was just traded for peanuts. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Moving on from Trumbo, longtime commenter, and again, the questions in green are getting prioritized. Initial thoughts on Gegard Mousasi versus Lima for the title. Love this fight. Gegard has not been very active since joining Bellator. So yes, Petesy, I'm sure you heard the news. Douglas Lima, reigning Bellator welterweight champion, is moving up to challenge Gegard Mousasi for the vacant Bellator middleweight championship of the world after Rafael Lovato Jr. Relinquished the title due to an ongoing medical condition. We wish him well nonetheless. Regardless of his fight career, just want someone to get healthy and live a normal life. But what did you make of this fight between Lima and Mousasi? I'm trying not to use this colorful language. I'll leave that to you, but I absolutely love this fight.
Yeah, I really like it. And it feels like there is a lot of guys coming, in the ranks at middleweight there, but they haven't just declared themselves as that contender yet. You know what I mean? So I think Lima deserves a profile boosting fight. He obviously had one against MVP and then had to win the belt again against Rory in the rematch. But I feel like this is the right way to go with him. And it really will underline how elite he is if he can do to Mousasi what Rory couldn't, right? Like, I mean, before Rory fought Mousasi, we were thinking this is going to be a very competitive fight, right? And then Mousasi pretty much overwhelmed him, I felt, on the night. I thought Mousasi was incredible in that fight. So I feel as though you're Douglas Lima, you're stepping up to a new weight division, a higher weight class. There's a dominant champion there, or a champion there at least. I guess he's only, but there's a vacant title, sorry. But there's a guy there that's dominant in the division. If you can go in there and win, you look amazing. And look, if it doesn't go your way, you've really lost no ground anyway. So I think it's a great booking from Bellator.
Yeah, it's interesting that if Lima wins, I tweeted this. If Lima wins, and then Ryan Bader's also fighting on the card, if he retains his light heavyweight championship, and I'm blanking on who Ryan Bader's fighting right now, and it's
Nemkov.
If Ryan Bader retains and Douglas Lima wins, that means every Bellator championship from heavyweight to featherweight would be controlled by 3 fighters. Because Bader would be heavyweight, light heavyweight. Lima would be middleweight and welterweight, and then Patricio Pitbull would be lightweight, featherweight. That would be 6 titles being controlled by 3 men. And if this happens in the UFC, that is a massive log jam of contenders having to fight one another, and we would not get as many title fights. But I think it works, and it's awesome. It's awesome in Bellator. I don't think it would work very well in the UFC.
Yeah, what did you think of the tweet that went out beforehand, the picture of Usman and Lima, and then kind of Coker piggybacking off the back of that? Well, they won't make, as if he sat down with the UFC and tried to make the fight,
Right, I want that fight. I want cross-promotional fights. I would love it. I would love seeing Lima and Usman, or imagine Wonder Boy versus MVP, or Masvidal and I don't know, anyone. There's a lot of great fights in that Bellator versus UFC. UFC's never going to do it because what do they have to gain? Nothing. They don't cross promote with anyone. They're not going to cross promote with anyone. They wouldn't do it.
I have liked the fact that Bellator are doing with Ryes, and there has been talks about KSW doing with Bellator as well, which I feel is a no-brainer with both of these guys trying to tap into Western Europe at the moment. I think KSW has that pretty much has Eastern Europe locked down, and they're both trying to get into Western Europe now. So I feel like that's a thing that makes absolute sense for them to do.
Is Phil DeFries still the champion of KSW?
Yeah, and I mean that's what I mean.
Him and Bader would be awesome.
Oh, it would be incredible. Yeah, it would be absolutely incredible. And they need things like this as well. Both promotions, because I feel like DeFries doesn't have a lot of guys left he can actually fight. He's destroyed all the really dominant Polish guys over there, and Bader's run out of options as well. It's not like we're oh, this guy is next at heavyweight, So why not? If they could do it, they should. I think it would be brilliant, and it makes UFC look like the odd one out, right? If all these other promotions are doing it for the good of the fan, and UFC aren't.
The only thing the UFC has that the other promotions don't, like you've been saying, is they're not running out of matchups for their champions.
That is true. Apart from Valentina, right?
Apart from but not even. I still think there's a handful of women fighters I would love to see.
Jennifer Maia, Roxanne Modafferi. But
I don't know if Jennifer Maia is going to fight at flyweight next because she's missed weight a handful of times. But there's a narrative there for Roxanne. Joanne Calderwood the UFC, I feel has been trying to get her a title fight for years. She just keeps losing those number one contender fights. I don't think Valentina's is out of opponents yet, but you're talking about featherweight, bantamweight, welterweight. It's throw a dart at a board and anyone in the top 5 you could get a title shot, no problem.
Yeah, that's true. And on Valentina, I think by the sounds of things, we interviewed her on Eurobash on Tuesday. It came out. Does sound like JoJo is likely there, and that's a good fun fight. I feel for the flyweight division,
I like that scrap a lot. I wish it was Roxanne. I think Roxanne is the most popular. Has never been more popular, and I think strike while the iron's hot. And I know Kevin Lee has said that he took this fight against Charles Oliveira in Brazil because the UFC promised that he would get Islam Makhachev on the next Russia card in Russia, because he's doing this bit where he goes to all these fighters enemy territory to fight their fighter. He did it with Greg Gillespie in New York, now he's doing it with Charles Oliveira in Brazil, and he wants Islam in Russia. When we presented that fight to him in New York, he's will it be in Russia? And we said probably not. He goes, I don't know if I want that fight then, but if it's in Russia, he would take it. And I think if the UFC is already planning this Russian card, Roxanne Modafferi beat Valentina's sister in Russia.
Ooh.
I think Valentina versus Roxanne in the main event of an ESPN Plus card in Russia, with Kevin Lee, Islam Makhachev as the co-main event. If Kevin Lee gets past Charles Oliveira, like, there you go. You're welcome, UFC.
That's very good, yeah. That's really what they need for Valentina. They need compelling stories as well. I do feel as though, like, I think it would be impossible to pick against Valentina Shevchenko in any fight at flyweight at the moment, though.
And her first title fight against Dika Montano was like that short notice fight where Sijara Eubanks had to pull out, and like they kind of got matched up at the last minute. I believe Roxanne was actually supposed to fight Lauren Murphy on that tough finale before she got the title fight, and then she's been losing to fighters that have missed weight. Like she fought Sijara Eubanks, Sijara Eubanks missed weight. She fights Jennifer Maia misses weight. She loses out on the Liz Carmouche fight because Liz Carmouche gets pulled to fight Valentina in Uruguay. So I feel like Roxanne's getting the short end of the stick a lot with her opponents missing weight, and she was when we were in Vegas together. Macy was minus 1,000 favorite, and Roxanne wins. And if you look at our YouTube numbers, outside of like Connor and Cowboy and Dana, Roxanne did the best in terms of post-fight scrums. I think she's never been more popular. I think that's the fight to make. The storyline is there, but I like the fight with JoJo and Valentina. I just think that's a super awesome high-level striking competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like even what you're saying about the missing weight thing, you remember Roxanne celebrating as if she basically won the fight already at the weigh-in just because her opponent made weight. It was incredible. And
she even said, like, Lauren Murphy, who won, which if no one brings up Lauren Murphy, Andrea Lee, I'll bring it up at the end. But Lauren Murphy called out Roxanne Modafferi, and Roxanne then tweeted, like, I'll fight you as long as you make weight and don't step on my foot. I don't know what the step on my foot thing means, but Lauren's like, of course I'm going to make weight. I never miss weight. So you know that's always going to be in the back of Roxanne's mind, her opponent possibly missing weight.
As it should be, man. As it should be.
But moving on, we're getting a lot of questions about these. There's a lot of questions regarding the scorecard, so we'll talk. Clev 21, rounds 1 through 3. Did either of you score any of the rounds for Jones? Why or why not? Why or why not? And then Zaku Kokegi, why were the first rounds typed in and the rest of the scores handwritten? That I don't know. But we're getting a lot of questions about this scorecard. So, Pete, what did you make of the judges' scorecards? 2 judges gave it 48-47 to Jones. 1 judge gave it 49-46 to Jones. Your thoughts?
I had 48-47 to Reyes. First 3 rounds. I felt like he was landing the more effective strikes. So that's why I picked him.
What did you make of 49-46?
I don't know. I think I've watched it 4 times now as well.
The whole fight?
Yeah, well, yeah, bits and pieces. Like, I mean, we watched it again before Eurobash the other night. I watched it again on the morning of Eurobash, and I've watched it again now. I don't know. Basically, I'm watching a lot. The first 3 rounds, I'd say, is the majority of what I watched. But I just don't understand the second round. I can see the third round being more debatable than the second. I just don't get it. The second round.
The third round is the close one for me. Watching it live, Octagon side, I thought it was a lot closer than it was. But upon rewatching it with Casey and Esther and Alex, I think Reyes won. But right there, immediately, I'm like, I don't know who won that fight. I was talking to like other media people around me, like the Schmo and I were talking, Octagon side. He goes, that third, we were pretty 50-50 on that third round. There was another writer, local reporter, who was like, I don't know. Like, he's like, oh, John's broke his nose. Like, he has to win. Heart of the champion. I'm just like, it's not how this works, guy. He might have lost that round. So, but it seemed to be pretty. And then going through, if you watch the press conference, the post-fight press conference, we were killing a lot of time. So Casey just gave me the mic like we normally do. He's like, go kill time and just start talking to like our YouTube commenters. There was like 19,000 people watching, and I was like, who do you guys think won? Like, write Reyes if you think Reyes won, and write Jones if you thought Jones won. And it was just like, just like 4,000 comments in a row of just Reyes 1, 2, 3, like a sprinkling in of Jones like 3, 4, 5. And then I walked around asking all the media. I think 90% of the media had Reyes won. There were a handful that believed John won, and then Mike Jackson, former UFC vet, said Jones won 4 rounds to 1. And then our YouTube comments just like rinsed him, and I was like, well, be nice, guys, be nice. But yes. it was vastly majority Reyes ones, especially in the YouTube comments.
I mean, it's I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going, this is a robbery. This is outrageous. But I think the 46 card's pretty outrageous.
It was, yeah, I like how Reyes is like, Reyes in the press conference is like, who are you? I think I'd like to have a word with you, sir. And I was like, ooh, get him.
Did Reyes, like, I know obviously he's not going to be able to see it this way for a long time, but did he gain a lot because he now is the sympathetic figure here? He's the guy everyone's like, he should have won, and now everybody is, as I said, gone off the heavyweight thing. In fact, people are saying like, if Jon goes to heavyweight, he's going to get destroyed by someone like Ngannou, destroyed by someone like Stipe. Has this kind of guaranteed him another shot at the title and a lot more eyeballs on him? If he does, like, you know, well, just a lot more eyeballs on him. I can see your face there as I say the immediate rematch. And look, form dictates that probably won't happen when you look at his other fights. But it certainly should, you'd feel, right? I mean, it certainly feels as though the public thirst for the rematch is huge at the moment.
I want the rematch. I want the immediate rematch very badly. I think it really depends on how this Rio Rancho card goes, and if Dana White wants to make that fight. Jon he went on this, not tirade, but like he was posting a lot on Twitter yesterday. He said he rewatched the fight and he's more confident than ever before that he won 3 rounds to 1 or 4 to 1. I don't remember his exact terms. But then a fan was like, "Why don't you rematch him and just put an end to the conversation?" And then and then Jon was like, "Someone call Uncle Dana, get out the checkbook." Like, so I think it's up to Dana. I think we really want to see how this light heavyweight fight between Jones and Jan Blachowicz goes, or Corey Anderson and Jan Blachowicz in Rio Rancho, because Jon is going to be there. He said, if Corey Anderson goes out there and does what he did to Johnny Walker, I wouldn't be surprised if they give it to Corey Anderson, especially because Jon Jones was already talking about Corey Anderson even before he fought Reyes. He's like, I want to break the chip off of Corey Anderson's shoulders, this and that. But if it goes out there and it's like another snooze, if it's a snooze fest, or if it's another like Jan versus Jacare fight, I bet they do the rematch with Reyes. I just think it really depends on how the Rio Rancho card goes.
Yeah, this is one I was thinking about on the Sunday after it. Before that fight, I thought Jones was the pound-for-pound best fighter in the UFC. Did you?
Yeah, I still do.
Do you? Yeah. That's what I'm trying to think. Has this taken away that the fact that there's 2 controversial wins back to back? I don't know. Has that taken away from his argument?
The only thing that has changed for me is now when Jon is about to, like, before this weekend, or I even thought, like, I don't see, like, Reyes could win, but I don't see it happening. Now the thought of Jon Jones losing has never been more prevalent in my mind. Like, but I still put, like, he won. Like, he officially won. That's a W on his record books. So I still have him number 1 pound for pound. I don't think his standing in the rankings changes.
Yeah.
Who would be above him? Habib?
Yeah, maybe. If he beats Tony, he's going to have a good argument, right?
If he goes out there and just dusts Tony and, like, or he taps him or just, like, mauls him that's a different conversation. But I think right now Jon is still number 1. But anything else?
Dare we speak of our excitement levels just yet for that one?
No, because that fight's not going to happen. Grin N on the site goes, what decision win was more controversial? GSP winning a split over Johnny, or Jones winning a unanimous decision against Reyes?
At the time, I can remember GSP and Johnny, there was absolute murder over that, wasn't there? I can remember.
I was there for that, UFC 167, and I think that one sticks out to me more just because of Dana White after the fight. Like, just call, because also George retired after that fight.
It was madness.
And Dana was like, how can you retire? And then, like, remember, he was like, George is being taken to the hospital, and then all of a sudden George shows up at the press conference, like, moments after Dana White is just throwing him under the bus and rinsing him alive. God. And then George is like, It's like Dana White looks super embarrassed. They just talked all this trash on George, his champion, calling him out for retiring, and then all of a sudden George shows up when Dana White said he wasn't showing up. So I think that one sticks out to me more, and it might be more controversial. I don't know though.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to gauge a kind of side by side because it's just so long ago. But yeah, it's a good comparison though, definitely.
There's some people were saying this was the biggest controversy since that fight and the Diaz-Condit fight.
Oh, remember that one too? Yeah, that was wild. That was wild
for the interim title. Like these three fights seem to be the most controversial as of late, but it might not even be the most in terms of. Like, this was more controversial on 247 because the title was on the line. It was Jon Jones, more eyes were on and everything. But if you're looking at, like, the most egregious error, I think, in judging, I still think it's Andrew Lee Lauren Murphy. Just based off what I'm seeing. Like, if you go on MMAdecisions.com, every single media member, every single one, scored it for Andrea Lee. And half of them had it 30-27 Andrea. And the two of those judges gave it to Lauren Murphy to win. And that's the fight that Joe Rogan called out one of the judges for being on his phone and not watching. If that is the case, I think this is the most controversial of the night in terms of discrepancy between fans and media and the two judges that scored it for the winning fighter.
Yeah, maybe, but I think we should say that that the monitor issue, right? The commission have come out and talked about the floor monitors that they give them. Also, Ben Cartledge, one of the most respected judge in Europe, has said that he definitely was given floor monitors when he was judging in the UFC. So you just get that out there as well, because I feel like that kind of adds to the hysteria, when you got stuff like this. So that guy seems to have been doing his job, probably not very well, but doing his job nonetheless.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. You and I, we know that. Fans don't know that. So
but Joe Rogan should know it, right? Like, Joe should fucking, like, he's sitting just there.
But Casey, Joe Rogan doesn't lie, obviously. I mean, Pete, Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan is infallible, apparently. So when he calls, and if Joe Rogan has one of the biggest platforms on planet, not even just MMA, if he says something, a lot of people are going to listen and believe him.
Elk and DMT, baby, all day long.
Oh, God. Well, what's next for John? We already answered that. Santos and Reyes, Anderson versus Blachowicz. Wait. So I'll ask you this then, because a lot of people are asking what's next for John. What if they don't book the rematch right away? What's next for Reyes?
I think the only reason they wouldn't book the rematch straight away is John going with the heavyweight. So the winner of Corey and Jan gets Reyes, I guess.
I think, it depends on what happens. I think if the winner of that fight gets John next, maybe the loser gets Reyes, or I like the winner of Anthony Smith versus Glover Teixeira in the main event of UFC Lincoln. I think the winner of that could fight Reyes. I just like that fight. Smith fought Jon Jones 5 rounds. Glover Teixeira fought Jon Jones 5 rounds. Glover Teixeira got beaten up badly, and Anthony Smith didn't have the doors blown off him. So 3 former Jon Jones opponents. The winner of that fighting Dominick Reyes, maybe for another title shot down the road, I think would be a fun fight. But again, it really matters. I think we're gonna know a lot more after this UFC Rio Rancho card.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like I feel bad for Jan and Corey, because ahead of this fight, when we've been talking about this fight every week in the lead up to it, we're talking about the implications it has on being Jones's next opponent. But this feels like it's nearly obscured it before it even happens,
Agreed. Now there's gonna be a lot more eyeballs looking at this fight. Like if they put a big performance on and they race and they talk of the immediate rematch, or if they go out there and have like a 5-round snooze fest. I feel like the winner of that fight is going to have to put on a spectacular performance to leapfrog.
It's just not going to have the same amount of eyeballs on it, right? Like it's just not like, I mean, it's just not gonna be the same thing.
But what they might have is if Jon Jones is sitting there octagon side and they show Jon watching the fight and they show the two kind of getting in, and what if Jon Jones enters the octagon after to stare down with his next opponent, this and that? It could be a lot of. We're gonna know a lot more after this fight card, I think.
That would be him forcing the narrative, if you ask me. If he did show up there, that would be a big indicator as to where he wants to go. That would be a big indicator as to his roadmap. Because surely, if they were like, Jon, we need you to sit cage side for this fight, because it's going to determine your next opponent, he'd be like, I'm absolutely not sitting cage side then because I'm going to fight Dominick Reyes next.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. From SJY on the site, who will be the first person to beat Jon Jones? Reyes, Santos, DC, someone else, or he goes undefeated for the rest of his career?
Francis Ngannou.
There you have it, folks. What about Stipe?
He's gonna be he's not fit at the moment, right?
I think it's his eyes. Something about his vision.
Yeah, that's a bad like that worries me when I hear that stuff. Like to hear in hindsight what Michael Bisping was doing for years is terrifying. It really is. And I've got nothing but respect for the guy, but it's very dangerous, man.
Hopping over to Twitter, you can use hashtag the A-side on Twitter, and we will look for or you can just reply to the tweet with the link, because that's what seems to be most people to do. From young Niall McGrath on Twitter, Jose, you might be my mentor and life coach. I will never be I never will be equal to you in height or fame, and by height I mean like physical height. But I can't wait to punch you in the face. Well, Niall, you might not be able to. You might not be able to reach. Like physically, you might not be able to reach. So we'll cross that bridge if we ever stand side to side. Maybe I'll get down on my knees and you can throw a punch up.
Lads, I'm not happy with this. This is I can't have this civil war continuing.
Hey, but it's on him, man. I'm just trying to better his life experience as a whole. He's the one coming at me foul.
Look, I never said you didn't do that. You're constantly reaching out to him and guiding his career. I'm not trying to say that, but
not even his journalistic career, like his life as a whole, like
just a general life coach.
Just a general who's that tall cat that Conor McGregor always walks around with? Tony Robbins.
John Kavanagh.
Yeah, John. Yeah. So Niall, win or learn. That's all I have to say.
I've got some Twitter questions this week. Will I go to them?
Well, let me ask you this first. From fan of Mr. Stationary, longtime Twitter commenter, PT doing his odd scissors move for all the
we haven't decided which one we've.
I like that one because it looks absolutely ridiculous.
That one's the winner. So,
interesting question. Wondering which trilogy would you like to see the most this year?
Jones and Cormier.
That's the trilogy you would want to see most in 2020?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the perfect note to retire on for Cormier, and it's a test that Jon has to get up for. It will just eliminate that doubt, that question I have at the moment of, is this because he is not taking his opponents? Is he taking them too lightly? I think the rematch would answer that, or the Cormier fight. But I feel like a trilogy fight, a heavyweight Jon Jones, Daniel Cormier, answers a lot of questions, and it's a good way for Cormier to leave the sport if he is just going to fight one more time.
I like Stipe and DC a little more right now.
I don't until his eye is all right, if he's fully fit, yeah, but I feel like Jones and DC.
What about Conor and Nate?
No.
Yeah. No, he says.
Well, I mean, I like it, but I don't like it more than them at the moment.
How about Machida and Mousasi?
No, it's not up there with them. To be honest,
I agree. I'm literally just trying to think of trilogies.
Yeah, trying to think of trilogies.
Oh, you're gonna get up for Liz Carmouche and Valentina Part 3, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the second one was so indecisive.
What about
Reyes and Jones?
What about Valentina Nunes?
The time could be very good for that one. Yeah, that would be very, very good. I was thinking about that today, actually. How big it might be now in comparison, right? Because they're on different levels now, both of them. And it shows Shevchenko in a very different light. She's very different around Nunes. She's an absolute competitor. like the sport is what means the most for her. And I feel like we see a very different side of her when she's fighting Nunes, a person who has 2 wins over her. It brings a completely different side of Shevchenko out. And, with all this spy talk, it could be a good opportunity for her to play the heel because she's such actually a nice person all the time. In all of her other fights, it might be a different viewpoint on her.
Yeah, I don't know I'm trying to think of other trilogies. Like, technically, Stipe JDS would be a trilogy, but I don't want to see that fight.
Jermaine the Randomy and Nunes again.
Oh wow, I forgot about. I always forget about their first fight. Whitaker Romero would technically be a trilogy, but I don't want to see that. I can't think of many trilogies off the top of my head. My answer is Stipe DC because that could actually happen.
I'm going DC Jones.
Unless MVP and Lima just fight 2 times this year, then I'll see that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I'm trying to think, man. I can't think of anything else outside of that.
Shogun signs to Bellator, and we finally get Machida Shogun 3.
So I don't like. None of them are gonna beat our picks, though, right? Like, I mean, we could do this all day.
No. Anyway, you got any questions on Twitter? I have so many. So you can. What do the people want to hear from Pizza Carroll?
Do you know who Rug is?
Of course, you've talked about him multiple times on this show.
So Rug is a Senegalese wrestler who made his MMA debut against an established French fighter called Sofiane Boccaccio and basically broke the internet. He escaped a Kimura grip by slamming Boccaccio on his head and then basically just sprinted at him and threw punches until Boccaccio was like just basically collapsed on the floor and couldn't take anymore. It was outrageous. And now he's fighting a 5-0 guy on April 3rd, I believe it is, in Brussels, Belgium, on Aries 2. And that was initially earmarked to be one of the first major events in France. But if you remember, there was a month where it got put back, and I think that obscured it. But Andy Stevenson, the great Andy Stevenson, is asking us, if you could match Rug with someone in the UFC today, who would it be? And I know who I'd pick straight away.
Lay it on me. Greg
Hardy.
Wow, that's not what I was expecting you to say.
That would be outrageous, wouldn't it?
That would be a circus for sure.
But I mean, this guy's only 1-0 in MMA, so I mean, surely, 2 athletes from 2 different backgrounds. Let's see how it goes.
Hey man,
I know who I'm picking.
Any other questions you got on Twitter before I hop back over to mine?
Loads, but we'll just do one more here, and then we'll go back over from the great Philip O'Connor, who has frequented MMA fighting content in fight weeks. Could you ask? Yes. Could you ask José Youngs if there's any downside at all to being so damn sexy, or is it a blessing every minute of every day? Hang on there.
Is this what the people want to know?
This is it. Just want to get the quotes ready for the article afterwards.
Well, here's how to do it, Phil. Dye your hair. Put metal in your face, specifically on your nose and ear, and then get a bunch of ink put into your body, and then you can get first-hand experience.
Well, there you go. It's as simple as that, Phil.
It's as simple as that.
See you with your new ink and hairstyle next week in Sweden.
I really hope next time I see Phil, he just walks up and he goes, "Hello, fellow youths," and he's just sitting there with a bunch of like tattoos and face paints. I'd be like, "Dear God, what has happened to you, Phil? Are you okay, Phil?"
You look so beautiful.
I just go blind all of a sudden.
Right, you go to Twitter, and I'll when you're
so
on the
well.
look
I'll
again.
ask our longtime commenter Sean Denny: are we getting matching T-shirts for Rug Mania Aries 2 in Brussels?
Do you know how many MMA people are going to this fight just to see Rug? I saw Sean, who goes to all KSW events, Brad Wharton, the Cage Warriors commentator. It seems like we've got a little frat going over to watch this lad. He's definitely injected a lot of excitement to the European scene with this announcement, I'll tell you that much.
Tory's
and yes, get the t-shirts.
from Tory's Lizard. Okay. I don't know what that means. Hey, Pizzi and Jose. I want to know if you think either of the Diaz brothers make a comeback in 2020.
Only way Nate Diaz is coming back is for McGregor, right?
McGregor or Masvidal.
Yeah. Nick, I don't even want to see it.
Nope. Poirier's been calling out Nate a lot. Maybe that fight happens. I don't honestly know. I know money talks, but I know Nate is very adamant that the UFC never gives him rematches. And is pretty livid over that fact. So I think he comes back for Conor or Jorge. I don't see him coming back if those fights aren't presented. So 100% no for Nick. I'd say 60% chance or 40% chance we see Nate.
Yeah, like here's the thing. I feel like if I'm Conor McGregor's team, Nate is the natural next step here. Like I feel like that's the fight I'd be pulling for if I was Conor's team. Because I feel like, yeah, like, you know, like it's not my preference. I don't think it's not the fight I want to see the most with Conor next, but I feel like his team, they've been in there with him twice. They have a good feel of what the fight would be like. I think, just in theory, I think it's a more winnable fight than the other options that are out there at the moment for Conor.
I agree. And then one final one before I kick it back to you. Specifically for you, Petesy. Well, I'll answer it too, but I think you'll have a better sense of it. How much of a kick in the teeth is it for UK MMA fans that Wood v Dotson fight is this weekend and not at UFC London? To make things worse, the fight isn't even on the Rio Rancho main card when a lot of UK fans would love this to be a UFC London co-main event.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. Both Arnold Allen and Josh Emmett, I know that fight didn't come to fruition in the end. Arnold ended up taking on Nick Lentz instead and winning that fight. I feel like Allen and Wood are essential. Like, you need to put those on the card. They need a spotlight, and they've just completely overlooked that. Like, Nathaniel Wood's so synonymous with London. Like, anyone who's followed Cage Warriors, the regional scene, his whole identity within Cage Warriors was built around being the London guy. He was their London ticket seller. He's from London. I think that's a guy that has to be on that card. And this is the second year in a row that he's been with the UFC. He hasn't. No, sorry, he did fight. His last fight was in the London card. But look, he's got to be on it. And yeah, I think it's a huge fight, and it's buried on the undercard, as this guy has said. But we do have to make a counterpoint here that Dodson went to Prague to fight Peter Yan. And you can't always have it one way. You can't expect John Dodson to be flying all over the place to fight these up and coming prospects, because he's the guy that's giving them this status. When you fight John Dodson, if they come away with the win, that's the profile boost for them. Him beating a Yan at that time or a Wood at that time doesn't do the same amount for him as a win over Dodson does for those guys. So I understand it from that point of view, but I feel with just a little bit more planning, we could have Arnold Allen and Nathaniel Wood in compelling fights on that card. And I think they missed a major beat by not doing it. Even though I do like the card, I do like the UFC London card, I feel like those guys should have been right there at the top of the list of people to be on that card. And
maybe Nathaniel Wood gets one of these, like, he gets the rub later on, like Nathaniel Wood goes to Rio Rancho, maybe he's even headlines a London card down the road. Maybe this is like the UFC asks him for a favor. They'll say, if you win this fight, we'll put you in a more prominent place on a London or Manchester or whatever card. I do still think, and I'll keep beating this drum, Holly Holm or Kel Pennington too should have headlines the Rio Rancho card. Holly Holm, you say Nathaniel Wood is synonymous with London. Holly Holm is synonymous with New Mexico. She's not only trains there, like John doesn't, like he trains in Albuquerque, but he's from
New York, right?
New York. Like Holly Holm has had the vast majority of her boxing fights in New Mexico. So that fight should have been the 5-round main event, or even if they stuck it in the co-main event just to sell tickets, I thought that would have been cool. I get that they might want Corey Anderson and Jan Blachowicz to be a 5-round fight. So if they just stuck Holly Holm in the co-main event, cool. Or if they had put Corey and Jan at UFC 247 in the fight leading into the two title fights and moved Juan Adams, Justin Taffet down to the prelims, I would have liked that too. So they would have the light heavyweight number one contender and the light heavyweight title fight all on the same card. Embedded would have been a lot more interesting with Corey Anderson and Jon Jones and Dominick Reyes walking around bumping into each other. I'll tell you that much. But now the fights are happening, and I like the fights no matter where they are, but I agree with you. A little bit of, to quote the former host of this live chat, promotional malpractice.
Yes, indeed. I had a point that I wanted to make after that, but I just forgot what it was, so I apologize.
You're welcome. Looking at Twitter still, you can still use hashtag the ASET on Twitter. Should there be, from Jerry McCarthy, another longtime commenter, should there be formal peer reviews of judges as my phone starts to ring, should there be formal peer reviews, what's all happening to my computer right now? Oh God,
You're all good. I can see.
I'm sorry, Jerry McCarthy. Should there be formal peer reviews of referees and judges after every event in the bigger promotions like there is in soccer and rugby? These are contentious and serve mainly to educate rather than punish. The less strong officials end up not getting main events. So, Pete, what would you say to peer reviews in MMA judging?
Peer reviews, are we talking about someone having to justify what they've done on a scorecard?
I think he might mean like other judges reviewing judges. Maybe like saying like, oh, I don't quite understand because I don't know how rugby and soccer does it. But would you want? I think judges should, if it's controversial like that, I would not be opposed to the judges answering questions and justifying why they gave Jon Jones 4 rounds.
Absolutely, and to be honest, the best commissions in the world, they do actually ask people to justify their cards post-event. I know some judges, and they are asked by the commission heads, why did you score this fight this round? If it's any way not in, like, you know, if it sticks out, as Joe Salas' cards have done in the past. I believe I saw Shaheen Al-Shadi tweeting that, you know, I think he'd been involved in numerous split decisions.
Ones.
Yeah, like eight split decisions out of 10 fights or something. I don't know what it was. Something crazy. Something outrageous anyway. Good commissions will ask that man to justify that. And I do feel as though the best officials in the world are transparent. Mark Goddard, for instance, anytime that guy has had a questionable moment, he comes out and speaks to the media. We've seen Herb Dean do it in the past. Even Ben Cartledge, the judge in Europe, has done it in the past, has justified his own cards. I feel like that's what we need. We need to hear these people talking about it, and it will also calm the hysteria. Like we have to remember here. I saw about 7,000 podcasts telling you how a fight is scored this week, and that's great, that's fine. But we need to see a judge kind of break it down. Like, and look, these guys, there are brilliant judges out there. There are fantastic judges out there that do brilliant work, that take their job absolutely very seriously, and they're disgusted to see their profession dragged through the dirt when something like this happens in Houston. UFC should be, like, the commission should be identifying who the best judges are in MMA. Having boxing judges overlooking MMA fights is absolutely ridiculous in this day and age. You're going to tell me in the biggest state in America you can't find a few judges who solely deal in MMA to judge these fights? I think that's the problem. It's overlooking simple things that could result in a far better officiating process on fight night, I believe.
I agree. I could not have put it any better myself. I know baseball has done a few things like that, where if it's a controversial call, a umpire will kind of explain like what, like, baseball is a little more cut and dry. It's not as subjective as MMA, obviously, but like if they were looking, I think it was when the Red Sox and Cardinals played in the World Series, like one umpire, when one umpire was looking this way and something was happening behind him, he was like explaining why he was looking that way. I don't have to tell you that, though. Right.
I remember that.
From Daniel Pompilio on Twitter, what will UFC fighters wear once the Reebok deal is over?
Hopefully lots of fun shit again, because Reebok sucks. I don't like it at all. It's terrible. Like, I hate when I see a regional fighter from Europe forging a personality and, you know, having their own style, having their own thing going, and then you're like, oh, inevitably you're going to the UFC and all this is going to stop. And that's basically what it is at this stage. Everybody knew it was going to do it before they came in. They haven't spent enough time building brands around the fighters and working with specific athletes. Like, they're always saying, oh yeah, look at this t-shirt we made. It's exactly the same framework as every other t-shirt with a different symbol on it. Like, I know we've had some good ones. Stylebenders was really cool for the Melbourne fight. But it's just, all right, one good t-shirt. Come on, man. Like, I think it's... I hope it goes out so we can get a bit more style going into the octagon, to be honest.
I have no idea what it's going to be. My gut says Under Armour, but I only say that because when Wiley Zhang won the belt, a lot of Under Armour athletes were tweeting at her congratulations. Like, just, I'm like, is that a coincidence? Like The Rock, Tom Brady, like a lot of Under Armour sponsored athletes were tweeting at this new champion. So that's literally that's just a gut feeling, but I have no knowledge. Is
that not WIME, something to do with them lads or whatever?
WME, IMG, I believe. Whatever also. I don't know the exact thing, but they own some stake in Under Armour or whatever. They represent those fighters. So I don't know. I have no idea. That's just my gut feeling. I know Under Armour.
I hope I hope we're able to make money again and get sponsors on your shorts and do all that fun stuff. Like, I mean, it's, you know, these guys are sole traders. They have to be able to sell themselves at the end of the day, and making them all look like carbon copies of each other isn't a great way to do that. It's counterintuitive towards, you know, self-promotion.
Yeah, and like Conor having the tattoo, like he has his logo tattooed on his arm. I remember when that logo came out, like I knew who Conor McGregor was when I was covering. If I remember thinking, like, if I wasn't a journalist, I would wear that hat because I like that the Fighting Irish logo. I think it was like the Conor, the doodle he had of the Fighting Irishman.
Conor, what's his second name?
Conor. It's a young cat named Conor McGregor. He's pretty good. He's pretty relevant in your neck of the woods.
I'm looking forward to looking this guy up and learning all about him.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. You might stumble upon a few things that might shine you away from him, but nonetheless, do your research, Pete. Considering you know nothing about Conor McGregor. Another question from Sean Denny as we close in on the end of time.
Come on, Denny.
I said that very ominously. What are must-haves in your event travel bags?
Baby wipes in case I get a dose of the shits.
Sure.
That's essential for me.
PT also needs an entire bag of makeup brushes or makeup sponges.
Well, exactly, in case, you know what I mean, in case I get any spots or whatever, you know what I'm
saying?
saying?
In case you break your face.
Do you have anything that's essential though, like that you'll put in your bag before you go? Do you bring a comic book to every event?
I bring one graphic novel for the plane ride, and then I always stop at a local comic book store and buy 2 or 3 graphic novels. So I don't want to bring a lot of books to read because I know I'm also going to bring a lot of books back. So this past trip to Houston, I brought Volume 2 of 20th Century Boys, and then I went to Third Planet, I want to say, which 2 UFC PR people text me being like, "There's a comic book store connected to the Fighter Hotel." I was like, "Oh God!"
No way, was it?
At Media Day, we finished Media Day, and Casey and Esther were like, "Jose, you should probably go check out that store." Good store, didn't like all the rules. There were rules everywhere saying, don't touch this, don't remove from shelf, call for help. I'm like, you guys take yourself way too seriously for a comic book store.
And you'd know, let's be honest, is that a bit too
it's too much. And like every single, like these books behind me, imagine if every single book was in a plastic sleeve. Like a book.
Right.
Not a comic, not a floppy, not a back issue, like a graphic novel in a plastic bag on the shelf. So you can't pull it out and like sift through it. You basically just have to look at the cover, and then they're like, if you drop this book, you have to buy it. I'm just like, you guys are...
What the...
I didn't understand it. I didn't like all the rules, and there seemed to be an older gentleman following me around while I was in there, like making sure I wasn't breaking the rules. Like, they took themselves way too seriously. And they were like, no... And they sold toys, too. Like, a lot of comic book stores sell toys and figurines, and they're like... We do not accept returns. If your toy is broken when you buy it, it's up to the company that made the toy to give you your money back. Right. Or like if the book is missing, if the book is ripped, take it up with the publisher. I'm like, you guys have a lot of cool stuff in here, but you're taking the fun out of buying books. I'm sorry.
Maybe they just get robbed an awful lot. That's what that sounds like, to be honest.
I don't know how they would be robbed. Like it was a very like. If someone stole something from the back and they ran out, they would basically run out onto a freeway. Like, there's no way that they get robbed that many times. But that's neither here nor there. The comic book store in Las Vegas is very good. I can't think of it off the top of my head. You got anything else on Twitter that you're seeing?
No, I think I have one from the great Casey.
Hit me.
Let me just make sure that this is for public consumption. All right. It seemed like a lot of respected media say that round 2 and 3 were close rounds that could have gone either way. So by that logic, a 4-1 scorecard is justified. So why are people hung up on the judging in the main event if all the scorecards are justified and not considered a robbery?
Say it again.
It seems like a lot of respected media say that rounds 2 and 3 were close rounds that could have gone either way. So by that logic, a 4-1 scorecard is justified, as in it's not a robbery, because if there's 2 swing rounds, someone could potentially have a 4-1.
Who's saying who else is saying round 2 is close besides John Anik?
I haven't seen.
I haven't seen too many. I think John winning 3-2. I wouldn't call it a robbery because we're both in agreement that round 3 was very close. Like if someone argued with me that Jon won round 3, I would say fine. Like I don't have an issue with it's round 2 for me that I don't think is close. So I don't know. I don't know too many outside of Mike Jackson and John Anik that scored 4-1 for Jon.
I think Casey's saying, like, why is everyone hung up on the main event instead of the likes of Lee and Murphy? You know, something like that.
It's the title. It's Jon Jones being the greatest fighter of all time. It's the championship. It's being 5 rounds. It's more eyes were on it. Like, yes, we both. I said at the beginning, like, Andrea Lee versus Lauren Murphy in terms of discrepancy between the judges, the fans, and the media was way different than Jon Reyes. Like Jon Reyes, I think at the time there was a lot of people that thought Reyes won, but since it's calmed down, I'm seeing a lot more people come out of the woodwork saying Jon won. I don't see a lot of people at all saying Lauren Murphy won. So if you're in terms of how, like, the most egregious error, Murphy Lee is by far the weirdest one, because, like, again, zero media scored it for Lauren Murphy on MMA decisions, and half of them said she didn't win a single round. So that to me is a little more out of control, but the fact that it's Jon Jones losing or Jon Jones winning, that makes it that much more controversial.
Andre Ewell 30-27 card against Martinez. What did you think of that?
I thought it was weird. Same thing. Yeah. It's the same judge that gave Chevin Giles round 1 against James Krause. He found himself stuck in a rear naked choke for like 4 minutes, and then apparently that's enough for him to win the round. I don't get it. I know Dana White. Dana White was oddly. Did you watch Dana White's post-fight press conference?
I saw bits of it. I had it on a loop, so I was watching them all. So you know what I mean? Like I was paying particularly attention to Shevchenko though, because we had the interviewer that day. So
I don't. It's a different Dana than we've seen lately. Like Dana White, we talked about him before. It came out and just like threw George St. Pierre under the bus. Like Dana White has been known to say some ridiculous things after fights, but then after this one he goes, "We're not judges, guys. Like, it's just, we don't make the rules. Like, we have to educate them." Like, I didn't hate anything Dana White. Like, usually I leave a press conference being like, Dana White just said the dumbest thing ever. I don't think he said anything dumb at this post-fight press conference. It was much more promoter talk than Dana White talk.
Do you think that they will be reluctant to go back to Houston?
Texas in general, maybe. Maybe not a big title fight, but they can't not go to Texas. There's a massive market there. Especially like if Jeff Neal continues his ascension and Diego Ferreira continues his ascension, they both live and train out of Texas. They have these superstars at Fortis MMA, like Uriah Hall has all of a sudden found new life at Fortis. They can't not go back, especially with this emergence of this new camp. I think Jeff Neal versus, like, say, Michael Chiesa, if they had another event in San Antonio or Austin, I think that's a great fight night card. Uriah Hall, if he wins against Jacare, I think he's a great fight night card in Texas. So no, I don't think it'll deter them. Maybe not a big title fight.
Has the emergence of this, well, not the emergence, the building of this Raider Stadium, do you think that's done away with the fascination with Cowboy Stadium?
No. I don't.
What is that? Why is Cowboy Stadium such a big one in comparison to any other stadium?
Because is it
a cultural thing? Is it an institute?
It is a cultural thing. Like, the Dallas Cowboys are America's team. I don't like the Cowboys. They haven't been America's team in a long time. But the Dallas Cowboys, I think, are the most famous football team around the world.
Really?
It is. I think so. I believe so. I bet more people know about the Dallas Cowboys than any other team. Maybe the Patriots. Maybe the Patriots now, but, like, the Dallas Cowboys are one of not only the most famous, but they are one of the they are worth the most, I believe. Like, the brands the Cowboys is massive. There's a lot of fans of the Cowboys that have never been to Dallas. Like a lot of like states like that don't have a team, they just default the Cowboys for a long time. That stadium is beautiful. It is so nice. They did the NBA All-Star game there once, and the Jumbotron was bigger than the basketball court.
Holy shit.
It is the biggest Jumbotron I've ever seen in my life. Like, if you put like Conor versus, like, I don't know, Masvidal in there, which I think could be a fight they could fill that place up. The their picture on the jumbotron would be bigger than the actual fight. Like it would be an 8-foot tall Conor McGregor like on the screen. It's crazy. It's so big that like if you watch like NFL punters warming up, they try to hit the jumbotron because it's so low.
Fuck.
It's
That's
so
crazy.
It's so big. It's so cool. Plus, it is in Texas. It's super close, which is not super close, but it's close to it's close enough to Mexico that you have that Hispanic market too. So like boxing and everything.
Well, Masvidal and Conor would be wild there then, right? Because like I know he's from Cuba, but he has definitely reverberated with the Mexican people, right? Like I remember he showed up
Hispanic
with the
people in general. It's also indoors. So yeah, like if you had like the Miami has that beautiful stadium, like MetLife Stadium in New York, New Jersey is a beautiful stadium, but it's an indoor stadium. It's a beautiful it's beautiful. This Vegas one is gonna do really well. That they're also building an LA stadium for the Rams and the Chargers, where they just announced WrestleMania is going to be there next year. So I think these will be all on par in terms of aesthetics and feel and crowds and everything, but the Cowboys brand is just bigger, and I feel like that's been the crown jewel for so long that would have to be the first big stadium. It's like Madison Square Garden isn't the greatest arena by any means, but it's just that it's Madison Square Garden that makes it special. If that makes sense.
And we could go to Four Flags if we do get an event there as well.
Is that what you Four Flags, right?
Yeah, what
Casey
a place.
and Esther. I told Esther that, and she could not stop laughing.
I genuinely thought it was called Four Flags.
It's
9 flags, right? Nine of them.
6 flags over Texas, sir.
Yeah, and 9 Flags is the name of the amusement park, right?
Sure. Why not?
You need
But
to go and get sleep.
we've run over time, of course, because we had a blast. Sorry we couldn't get to everyone's questions. I'll remember some of them for next week. But as per usual, Pizza Carroll, the floor is yours for any promo you want to cut.
We need to stop the civil war between MMA fighting podcasts, José Youngs and Niall McGrath, before there is bloodshed, before someone loses a great life coach. We need to end this beef. Niall is becoming more violent in his messages towards you.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I'm just afraid there's going to be blood spilled and we're going to lose one of these great podcasts because, as most people know, I can't do these things by myself. They literally have to type in words onto my WhatsApp and tell me what to say every time. So I need to just end it all. I want an end to Jose and Niall's beef. And I think the people should get behind us and think of ways maybe that they could resolve this. So if you could tweet Jose and Niall and suggest maybe things they could do together to build a relationship, that would really make me very happy. And of course, if there is one particularly great idea, maybe we'll try and make it happen somehow. So let's just try and do that. Let's think of ways that will bring Jose and Niall together. They're very different people, so let's try and think about what type of common ground they could meet on to become the great friends I'm sure they will be in the future.
Someone did ask on Twitter, when will we see the most anticipated fight of 2020? The Westmeath Warrior, José Youngs, and the Kildare Killer, Niall McGrath.
Listen, it's the mansions of South Dublin against the fields of Westmeath. It's the fight that everyone's waiting for, to be honest.
So what you're saying is I, José Youngs, the champion of the people, will be going up against someone pretending to be from Dublin? This is what I'm gathering.
He's from Kildare. Most people know that, but most people don't know that, should I say? And he got they moved to like the rich part of Dublin now, and they're trying to separate themselves from their former past. But I'm just trying to add to the backstory here. You know what I mean? It's Youngs versus McGrath. I don't personally want to see it. I want to see an end to all this stuff. But yeah, I believe it is a fight that captivates the nation.
Listen, if Niall
maybe more so than McGregor v. Duffy too.
Listen, if Niall wants to just sit down, break bread, I'll teach him how to read, and then we can put this behind me. Because once he literally finally learns like grammar, then we can be friends.
That's going to take way too long. One of us could be dead before.
He's going to have to put down the beer and sandwich first. I don't even know where half of these things come from. I'm just assuming.
What's your promo?
My promo. I was going to talk about Lauren Murphy v. Andrea Lee because I thought Casey convinced me there that was like, I didn't know that many judges scored it for Andrea Lee, or that many media members scored for Andrea Lee until after the fact. And I was like, whoa, yeah. Because I missed that fight because I was interviewing Kamaru Usman backstage. So Alex Savis interviewed Lauren Murphy, and I thought she did absolutely great. It was great working with her. My promo will be, guess who said he would love, it's not even a promo, it's a nice little plug. Guess who said he would love to be on the A-side sometime?
I literally just wrote down that man's name because I was like, shit, I better ask Jose about this. It's Captain Crystal, I believe.
Captain Crystal, Jared Cannonier, was backstage doing
what
guest
about that pirate
oh, yeah.
he was wearing? Oh,
I was like, Oscar Willis, our good friend over at the Mac Life, was looking at me, just being like, don't ask. And I was like, what's up with this pirate you got around your neck? He was like, let me tell you. Did you see his face like light up when I...
It was the most animated I've ever seen Jared Cannonier, including the time that he went to Brazil to fight Anderson Silva and he had no luggage when he arrived in the country. So that's how... That was the best question there. So what's Oscar's beef? You know what I mean? His
face lit up, and then he started to talk about like energies, and not only, I don't know if because you might have missed it from my camera angle. He was talking about his pyrite, and then while he's talking about his crystals, he took 2 more crystals out of his pocket, and he was holding them in his hands, and I was like, this guy rules. And then Oscar was looking at me the whole time, being like, shaking my head. I'm like, this is now in all of your scrums. You're welcome.
Yes. You know what I mean? It's the A-side takeover. Taking over, slowly but surely.
And then I went and I told him about, because he's not on Twitter ever, so I told him how Jessica does the crystal keys to victory and how Jared Cannonier's kind of become a fan favorite on our show. And he's like, really? I had no idea. So let him know that you want to see him on the A-side, because he said he's down if we can figure it out.
You know, it would make all our dreams come true. All our dreams come true.
Did you see his interview with Aaron Bronstetter?
Refresh my memory. What was it about?
Aaron Bronstetter, TSN, is a good friend. He watches the show sometimes, and he knows our love for the Crystal Talk. He gets since he's a broadcast partner, he gets all the one-on-ones backstage.
He does great stuff. Yeah, he's
at
brilliant.
the end of his interview, they were talking about crystals a little bit. He goes, "What is your favorite stone if you had to pick one?" And Jared Cannonier, without missing a beat, just goes, "Earth." And I was like, yes. And I stood up, and
that was great.
Aaron came up and told me, he goes, you gotta watch this clip. And then he showed it to me, and I was just like, well done to Jared and Aaron. So if you want Jared on the show, you let us know. Also, I talked to Jose Shorty Torres, who's going to be in the Brave flyweight tournament. He's also a big fan of the show. He said he would love to come on too. So maybe we could get 3 people on the show.
Are they doing a tournament, Brave?
Brave is doing it. Brave, you can check out MMAfighting.com because we broke the news.
Oh my!
It's Jose Torres, Mateus Nicolau, the fighter he was supposed to fight in November that I can't remember.
Amir Albazi.
I don't think he was supposed to fight him.
He was. Amir Albazi. He was meant to fight him, and then he stopped on the day, 2 days before.
His father had passed away. Yeah, and he was he was going through some things. So, but he's not. That fight wasn't booked rematch. So if they both win, they'll fight for the championship, the inaugural flyweight championship. And I guess Zach Makovsky's trying to throw his name into that too because he might have just signed with one championship. But Jose Torres is a big fan of the show. Maybe he can come on. We'll get a nice 3-man panel. But we're running way long on time. For Jose, that is Pizzi. You can also find this on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all that fun stuff, because people always say, hey, we don't watch, we listen. Go watch it and listen to it. Do everything. But we're out.
Stop the MMA Fighting Podcast Civil War. Thank you very much. This is a protest song.
A song. Anyway, hasta luego, everyone.